Hello everybody, Incon here, coming out today talking about farming in Deadlock and how you can make your farming more efficient so you're not falling behind in souls. For those that have played a lot of games of Deadlock, the most frustrating thing that can possibly happen to you is falling behind in souls, because regardless of how good you are as a player and how much better you are than your opponent, at the end of the day, it is a MOBA, and if you're down 10,000 souls, you're gonna have a bad time. Even if you outplay them, they've just got so much more wiggle room to work with, so making sure that your farm is on point is crucial, and we're going to help you with that today. Right off the bat here, when you're in the laning phase, two things are going to be absolutely crucial right now. One, the early game PvP since the last patch does matter a lot. You can see I just got a kill on this Furnace in the lane, and I've got a 600 soul lead on him. That's because not only is he gonna miss a wave, but the early game PvP kills are actually really important. So be very careful in the early game right now. Beforehand, dying in the early game almost didn't matter at all, but it actually does matter a lot more right now. So those early PvP kills are crucial for getting ahead at the very start of the game. And also, you're gonna see a lot of pro players and a lot of pro streamers. They're gonna be punching the waves a ton. The reason why you do this is when you punch the actual minions, you get the guaranteed soul secure, so you don't have to worry about securing the souls afterwards. That is incredibly crucial on some certain heroes as well, because each of the different heroes have different bullet velocities for their guns, which means that some heroes are way better at securing than others. So if you're one of the heroes that is actually bad at securing souls, it's even more important to make sure that you're meleeing whenever you can, so that way you don't get your souls stolen on cooldown because of the additional early game souls. Now, depending on what side of the map you are on and depending on what lane you are in, you're gonna start to have mobs start spawning around you at the 3-minute marker for those small camps and the 5-minute marker for those medium camps. These are going to be additional style farm camps. This is not something you ever want to miss a wave to go for. The lane XP right now is stronger than it's ever been, particularly if you're in that duo lane. The way that it used to work is at the 8-minute marker, you would stop splitting souls. So it would be less efficient to farm together. That is no longer the case. You continue to get the same amount of XP split between two people, which means you actually always want to be splitting the farm between two people if you can for those lanes. Additionally, the lanes do not get the additional soul count at the 8-minute marker as well. They have consistent XP throughout the laning phase for those souls, and they're not going to have that like hard 20% increase at the 8-minute marker anymore. So, if you're a character like Infernus, you can immediately run over to that tier 2 camp. You can run through it with your flame wave, and you're going to clear the thing basically instantly. That is why a character like Infernus is so good at farming, or a character like Seven will you see them start to get ahead. If you're one of the characters like, say, a Vindicta, that is not how you're going to get ahead in that stage of the game. Your early game farm in the laning phase in the PvP, very strong. Your ability to early jungle camp, not so strong, so you do need to play into the strengths of your characters. Now, additionally, you're going to start to get boxes spawning at this stage of the game. Boxes are a great way for a character like Vindicta, who is not so good at running off to do those jungle camps because it takes her a little bit too long to get a little bit of additional farm. Now, just like those jungle camps, you do not want to be missing any lane XP in order to go do that. So you basically have two choices at that point. You can clear the wave as fast as possible and go grab a couple of boxes, which will give you probably 100 to 200 souls at this stage of the game, depending on your RNG, or you can go for the PvP. If you go for the PvP after clearing the wave, you're not going to be able to go for those boxes, so that's the kind of dynamic choice that you are looking for at this stage of the game. So here's a quick example of you going to get a little bit of additional farm. So I clear the wave right there as fast as I can before the Infernus can get back to lane. I know that there's going to be a camp here on top of this roof, so I go up here and I start to clear this camp. Now you can see it's at the 8-minute marker. I'm Vindicta. My clear up here is not fantastic. I'm keeping an eye on the map right now, and I'm looking for Infernus to see how he is going to push. So I clear one of the camps up here. I go to clear the second minion. I see that I start the third minion here, but the wave starts to come back to the tower, so I start to move myself back towards the wave, so that way I don't miss a single minion underneath the tower, so I still get full XP for both. So while my actual jungle clear isn't that great on Vindicta, I still make sure to position myself in order to get that bonus XP to help maintain my soul lead here over Infernus. Immediately after that wave is cleared, I come back up top and I start to do a little box run. This is a fantastic little box run if you are the solo laner over in that yellow lane. So I come all the way over, I grab these boxes. Now I've got a decision to make to go for a gank here or to go back to lane. I start to look for a snipe there on Mirage, but I can't find anything. So I go ahead and hop over and I try to help them get a kill here on Abrams. So because I've come over for this kill and I grabbed the kill on Abrams, I do get to grab some of his souls, which is nice for me personally. Now right here, this is where I make the mistake. I go and I get the kill. I stay for a little bit of additional farm right there, which means that Infernus is actually getting pressure on my Guardian, and I'm going to lose a couple of creeps over here. It's not the end of the world. It's just a little tiny thing, but it's something you should be aware about. When you're going for those rotations in the early stages of the game, you can get a lot of damage in. You can get a lot of good work, but you've got to be careful on rotating immediately back. Once you get out of the laning phase in the early stages and you start to head into that mid game right around the 15-minute marker, this is where you're often going to see the souls start to split apart for the two teams. So your goal at this point is to basically be the highest souls on your team. Don't be comparing yourself to the other team. You can see that they've got a 20k soul lead at this stage of the game because they've been team fighting better, they've been winning on other lanes, and they've been doing objectives like the urn. So what your goal is at this stage of the game is to make sure that your souls are higher than your teammates, and if at all possible, make sure that your souls are higher than your lane opponent as well. Those are basically your two jobs to make sure that you're farming well and to give you a perspective on how well your farming is going that game. So I've got a couple K lead over the Infernus at this stage of the game, and I've got the most souls on my team. Now, if you're a character like a Dynamo, your farm is going to be a little bit weaker, and so those aren't the exact rules. But if you are a carry, like a Vindicta, who's going to be able to snipe for those extra souls, like an Infernus, like a 7, who is able to farm those tier 3 camps of McGinnis super duper easy, that's the kind of mindset you want to be in when you're pursuing these games. Now, when you're in this mid stage of the game as well, this is where the characters are going to start breaking off in their soul farms and how good they are at doing different things. So for a character like Vindicta, your primary soul increase compared to your opponent is actually going to come from the PvP because of your ability to snipe with that tier 3 upgrade and get those bonus 600 souls. If you're somebody that's better at farming the jungle camps, you're going to need to be farming more of those tier 3 camps by yourself as fast as humanly possible. But everybody at this stage of the game is trying to do 3 different things. 1, make sure you are at the waves when they are meeting. You've got to be careful with your positioning. So you can see I clear the yellow lane wave as fast as I can, and then I immediately go into the jungle camp. This is basically, as F. would say, the stuff after the stuff. You need to always be doing something at this stage of the game. In the early game, because of your inability to clear as fast, you might be doing a little bit more AFKing, just kind of waiting. But at this stage of the game, you're always going to be doing something. You should always be doing a rooftop box farm. You should always be doing a underground box farm. You should always be doing a camp. You should always be making a rotation to PvP. You should always be farming a lane. You need to make sure that you are actively pursuing farm at this time. If at any point around this stage of the game, you find yourself not doing anything, if you find yourself not farming, you are falling behind at this stage of the game. So depending on the lane that you're in, you just need to find a couple of paths that you know, get those respawn timers down around 2 minutes for a lot of stuff, and make sure that you're constantly going through your cycle. Now, as you start to get towards that 20 to 25 minute marker, this is where we start talking about late game team fights. This is where this guide is going to go just slightly off of the rails, and this is where I'm going to start to tell you that farm starts to not become everything at this point. I know, talking about not farming during the ultimate Deadlock farming guide, that's got to be sacrilegious. At this stage of the game, this is where you're going to start to see players that have gotten good at the early and mid game farming start to farm too much as you get into those later stages of the game. So once you start getting into the team fight stage of the game, you start having fights over those mid bosses, you start having fight over those urns that have a lot of soul value in them, and you start to get ready for pushing walkers in the bases. This is the stage of the game where you need to make sure that you are with your team, because if you are not participating with your team, particularly you see this among the characters that are really good at farming tier 3 camps, you'll see a Wraith, a Haze, etc. go for this, where they're like, I'm going to do hashtag one more camp. And then they go to do that camp and a giant team fight breaks out and you have a 6v5 and you lose the game off of it. So once you start entering this portion of the game, start to consider your primary source of farm the grouping with your team. You're actually getting a lot of souls right now for grouping anyway because of the changes to farm, but when you kill the enemy team, when you wipe them like that, you're getting all of their jungle souls that they've gathered. You're getting an incredible amount of souls right now as well for the PvP. It goes all the way up to 2,000 souls, I want to say at the 40-minute marker, which means that just getting kills as the game goes later is a crazy soul value and way better than anything else that you're going to get in the game right now. Hopefully this guide has given you a general idea of what you're looking for when you are farming, guys, giving you a general idea of the early game, the mid game, and the late game that you are looking for farm. Just a little TLDR, in the early game, you are looking for those quick PvP kills if you can to deny your opponent the farm, prioritizing the lanes always over every other form of XP, making sure that you are getting 100% of the credit for those waves. Then depending on the hero that you were on, you can then go quickly into the jungle and start to farm those tier 1, tier 2 camps. If you're one of the primary farm characters, you can knock out early tier 3 camps for some great farm, and you need to make sure you've got a couple of different box runs down for every single lane, and that is going to be lane dependent. Depending on the lane that you're in, you're going to have better and worse spots to get off that box farm, so you need to make sure that you know all of those. I hope you guys learned something here today. I hope this was helpful for you for getting ahead and staying ahead in your souls. And of course, if you're a 7 player out there, if you're a Haze player out there, please join us in the team fights. We would love to have you. I guarantee you, you're going to have a better result if you come hop in a team fight at that 30-minute marker instead of doing that hashtag one more camp. Thank you guys for watching the video. Make sure you're subscribed if you want some more helpful Deadlock content. And of course, we stream 6 days a week right now, so please come out to twitch.tv/Incon to support us. I would love to see your faces and answer your questions live and help you get better at Deadlock. Thank you for watching, and as always, folks, have a Twitchin' day, y'all. Thank you for supporting the Twitchiest community. If you'd like to see more videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel and always hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Thank you for all your support and have a Twitchin' day, y'all.